In the winter of 2016, at an old hotel called Hotel Cecil, this hotel has a terrifying history. And this story is based on the rumors and events surrounding it, focusing on a specific room in Los Angeles, California. A young woman named Sarah, whose name has been changed, had just arrived to attend a conference. Due to a limited budget, Sarah chose to stay in a cheap hotel located in a not-so-safe area of the city. When checking in, the receptionist looked at Sarah with a slightly confused expression when she said her name. He handed her the key. The room number was 13. Sarah didn't pay much attention, just thinking it was a normal number. As Sarah stepped into room number 13, a cold and gloomy feeling enveloped her. Although the hotel was old, this room seemed even older and dirtier than she had imagined. The walls were peeling. The old carpeted floor was covered in dust and had stains of unknown origin. The air in the room was stuffy and smelled of mildew. Sarah tried to ignore the discomfort. She put down her luggage and walked around the room. The room was quite small, with only a single bed, a small table, and an old wardrobe. The only window in the room overlooked a small, dark alley. When Sarah checked the bathroom, she shivered when she saw reddish-brown stains on the sink and floor. They looked like dried blood, although Sarah tried to convince herself they were just rust stains. She returned to the bedroom, sat down on the bed, and took out her phone to find out about this hotel. She suddenly remembered hearing about Hotel Cecil somewhere. When she searched online, Sarah was horrified to discover the dark history of this hotel. Hotel Cecil was infamous for murders, suicides, and supernatural phenomena. It had been a temporary residence for several serial killers and the site of mysterious deaths. And even more terrifying, room number 13 was particularly known for its haunted stories. People rumored that many suicides and murders had occurred in this room, and the spirits of those who had died still lingered here. Sarah felt a cold fear spread throughout her body. She couldn't believe she was staying in this terrifying room. She wanted to leave immediately, but it was late, and she didn't know where to go. Sarah decided she would try to sleep for one night, and the next morning she would find another hotel. She locked the door carefully, closed the window curtains, and lay down on the bed, trying to fall asleep. However, Sarah couldn't sleep at all. She constantly felt as if someone was in the room with her. She listened to every small sound. Sarah lay in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the pitch-black ceiling. She listened to every small sound in the eerily silent room number 13. Only the pounding of her heart was clearly audible. Around 1 a.m., as Sarah was trying to fall asleep, she suddenly heard a strange noise coming from the wall next to her bed. It was a soft scratching sound, like fingernails scraping against the plaster. Sarah startled and sat up, staring at the wall. She thought maybe it was just a mouse or some insects. But the scratching was too clear and steady to be that. The scratching continued, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, as if deliberately trying to get her attention. Sarah felt a strange unease. She knew there was no one on the other side of the wall. Just then, Sarah suddenly heard a very faint whisper echoing, seemingly coming from the wall itself. The voice was high-pitched, cold, and difficult to hear, like the wind whistling through a narrow crack. Sarah shivered. She was sure it wasn't the wind. It was a woman's voice. She tried to listen more carefully. The whisper came again, this time a little clearer. Jessica could hear disjointed syllables, but she still couldn't understand their meaning. The voice sounded very sad and mournful. Sarah felt utter terror engulf her. The ghost of the woman in this room was trying to talk to her. She tried to speak. "Who are you? What do you want?" Her voice was trembling and weak. There was no answer. The whisper continued, as if telling a sad story that no one was listening to. Sarah felt a sudden bone-chilling cold rush through the room. The temperature seemed to drop abruptly. Sarah huddled under the covers. She looked around the room, trying to find the source of the whisper. The faint moonlight shone through the window, casting terrifying long shadows. Suddenly, Sarah saw something move in the corner of the room. It was a blurry black figure lurking in the darkness. The figure was shaped like a woman standing there, silently observing her. Sarah screamed in terror. She pulled the covers over her head, not daring to look out anymore. Her heart pounded in her chest, as if it wanted to jump out. She lay curled up under the covers, trying not to make any sound. She heard her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. After a while, the scratching and whispering seemed to have stopped. The cold feeling also gradually dissipated. However, Sarah still didn't dare stick her head out from under the covers. She lay there, waiting until morning. The first night in room number 13 was a terrifying nightmare. The next morning, Sarah woke up feeling tired and exhausted. The sunlight shining through the window made her feel a little safer. She quickly packed her bags and decided to check out immediately. When she went down to the reception desk, Sarah told the receptionist that she wanted to check out. The receptionist looked at her with a little surprise. "You've only been here one night?" he asked. Sarah felt a little embarrassed, but she decided to tell the truth. She told the receptionist about the strange phenomena she had experienced in room number 13. About the scratching on the wall, the whispering, and the dark figure she had seen. The receptionist listened carefully, but his face showed no surprise. When Sarah finished her story, he just nodded slightly. "You're not the first person to experience such things in room number 13," he said, his voice low and slow, as if he was used to these stories. Sarah shivered. She asked, "What happened in that room?" "Sir, why is it haunted?" The receptionist looked at Sarah with a sad look. "Room number 13 has a very sad history," he said. "Many years ago, a young woman named Eleanor rented that room. She went through something very terrible, and in the end, she took her own life in that room." Sarah felt a pang of pain when she heard the story of Eleanor. She asked, "What terrible thing happened to her?" "Sir?" The receptionist hesitated for a moment, then said, "People rumored that she was betrayed by someone she trusted. She lost everything and couldn't bear it anymore." He also said that after Eleanor's death, many people who rented room number 13 experienced strange phenomena. Some heard wailing, whispering, and some saw Eleanor's figure. The receptionist said, "Perhaps Eleanor's spirit is still lingering here, seeking peace or someone to listen to her story." Sarah felt sympathy for Eleanor. She understood why her spirit couldn't find peace. She had died in pain and despair. Sarah decided she wouldn't just check out and leave. She felt a strange connection with Eleanor's spirit. She wanted to help her find peace. Sarah said to the receptionist, "Can you tell me more about Eleanor?" "Sir, I want to learn about her." The receptionist looked at Sarah with surprise. "You want to learn about a ghost?" he asked. Sarah nodded. "Yes, I believe she's trying to tell me something. I want to help her." The receptionist hesitated for a moment. Then he agreed to provide Sarah with some information about Eleanor that he knew from old records and rumors in the hotel. The receptionist provided Sarah with some information about Eleanor. Her full name was Eleanor Vance. She rented room number 13 in the summer of 1978. She was a young woman, beautiful and seemed quite sad. The receptionist said that Eleanor often stayed alone in her room and didn't talk to anyone. She only occasionally went out to buy food. After a while, she was no longer seen. When hotel staff opened room number 13, they discovered Eleanor was dead. She had committed suicide by taking poison. The police report stated that there were no signs of foul play. The case was closed as a suicide. However, the receptionist also told Sarah another rumor. Some people said that before she died, Eleanor wrote a suicide note, but the note mysteriously disappeared. Some people believed that the note contained the secret about the real reason for Eleanor's suicide. Sarah felt intense curiosity about that suicide note. She thought perhaps the note contained the answer to what was happening in room number 13. Perhaps Eleanor was trying to tell her about the contents of that note. Sarah decided to stay at Hotel Cecil for a while longer to learn more about Eleanor and try to find the suicide note. She rented another room on a different floor, but still often went near room number 13. She also spent time searching for information about Eleanor online and in old newspaper archives. She learned that Eleanor was an artist, and she had come to Los Angeles to pursue her dreams. However, she had encountered some difficulties in her life. Sarah felt sympathy for Eleanor. She understood that an artist's life was not easy, and perhaps Eleanor had experienced something terrible that made her lose all hope. One evening, Sarah decided to try to contact Eleanor's spirit again in room number 13. She brought a notebook and a pen, hoping that Eleanor could write something for her. Sarah sat outside room number 13, took a deep breath, and called out Eleanor's name. "Eleanor, are you here? I'm Sarah. I want to help you." For a moment, nothing happened, but then, the door to room number 13 slowly opened. Just a crack. Sarah felt a cold draft coming from inside. Sarah said, "Eleanor, are you trying to contact me?" A faint whisper echoed from inside the room. "The note." Sarah startled. "What note? Eleanor? Your suicide note?" The whisper came again, this time a little clearer. "Hidden." Sarah understood that Eleanor's suicide note had been hidden by someone. She asked, "Who hid the note? Eleanor? Who is he?" However, Eleanor's voice faded and disappeared, and the door to room number 13 slowly closed. Sarah stood there, thinking about what she had just heard. The suicide note was hidden. That meant Eleanor's death might not have been a simple suicide. Perhaps there was some dark secret behind it. After learning that Eleanor's suicide note was hidden, Sarah believed that the note contained the truth about her death. She decided to find a way to find it. Sarah thought that the note might still be somewhere in Hotel Cecil. Perhaps in room number 13 or in a place related to Eleanor. She asked the hotel manager for permission to enter room number 13 again. The manager hesitated a little, but after hearing Sarah's reason, he agreed. Sarah stepped into room number 13, and the cold and gloomy feeling was still there. She began to search for the note carefully. She checked every corner of the room, from under the bed, in the wardrobe, to the desk drawers. While searching, Sarah felt a strange presence in the room. She felt as if Eleanor was there, watching her. Occasionally, she heard a very faint sigh or small noises like objects being moved. Sarah spoke softly. "Eleanor, are you here? I'm trying to find your note. Please help me." In a moment, a sudden cold draft blew through the room. Then, Sarah saw something sparkling under the bed. She bent down to check and was horrified to realize it was an old dagger. The dagger was covered in reddish-brown stains and looked terrifying. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Why was there a dagger under Eleanor's bed? She carefully put the dagger down, not daring to touch it anymore. She continued searching for the note. After a while of searching, Sarah felt discouraged. She couldn't find any trace of the suicide note. She thought maybe someone had taken it a long time ago. Just as Sarah was about to give up, she suddenly saw something strange on the ceiling. Right above the bed, it was a small crack that looked unusual. Sarah stood on the bed to get a better look. She noticed that the crack looked like a small gap in the ceiling. She reached up and felt something soft inside the crack. Sarah tried to pry the crack open wider. After a while, she was able to see a corner of a piece of paper stuffed deep inside. Sarah felt her heart beat faster. She thought this might be Eleanor's suicide note. She carefully used her finger to pull the piece of paper out. It was an old, yellowed piece of paper with faded handwriting. Sarah trembled as she held the paper and began to read. It was indeed Eleanor's suicide note. In the note, Eleanor wrote about her pain and suffering, about being betrayed by someone she loved and being tricked out of everything. But what terrified Sarah the most was the last line in the note. He did it. He took everything from me. He is the receptionist. Sarah was horrified looking at the last line in Eleanor Vance's suicide note. He is the receptionist. That meant the receptionist she had met, the one who had given her the key to room number 13, was the very person who had betrayed and perhaps caused Eleanor's death. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. She couldn't believe that the old and seemingly harmless receptionist could be a deceiver and perhaps a murderer. She remembered the receptionist's strange look when she said her name and when she said she wanted to check out. Perhaps he had recognized her connection to room number 13 and Eleanor's spirit. Sarah quickly folded the note and left room number 13. She went straight to the reception desk. The receptionist was still sitting there, his face calm as if nothing had happened. Sarah stood in front of him, holding Eleanor's suicide note tightly in her hand. She looked directly into his eyes and said, "I found Eleanor Vance's suicide note." The receptionist's face suddenly changed color. His eyes became fearful and somewhat angry. "What are you talking about? You have no right to search through other people's belongings," he snarled. Sarah said, "I know who you are. I know what you did to Eleanor. This note says it all." The receptionist jumped up, his face contorted with fear and rage. You read it?" he stammered. Sarah nodded. "And I know the truth. You deceived Eleanor, stole her property, and perhaps, you caused her death." The receptionist's face became terrifying. He no longer had his previous harmless appearance. His eyes clearly showed cruelty and despair. "You shouldn't know this," he said, his voice low and cold. He slowly reached into the desk drawer. Sarah felt danger approaching. She backed away, ready to run. The receptionist pulled out a gleaming knife from the drawer. "You've seen what you shouldn't have seen. You will have to be silent forever," he said, and lunged towards Sarah. Sarah screamed in terror and ran frantically from the reception desk, heading towards the main entrance of the hotel. The receptionist chased closely behind her. In a panic, Sarah ran out of the hotel and into the street. She ran among the traffic, trying to find help. The receptionist was still chasing closely, his footsteps echoing on the sidewalk. Just then, Sarah suddenly saw a blurry white figure appear in the middle of the traffic. It was Eleanor's ghost, standing there, staring intently at her murderer. Eleanor's ghost stared intently at the receptionist with hateful eyes. The receptionist saw the ghost, his face turned pale with fear. He stopped abruptly, staring intently at the ghost of his victim. "No way," he stammered, his voice trembling. "You're dead." Eleanor's ghost didn't say anything, only slowly moved towards him. Her face was still beautiful, but her deep, hollow dark eyes radiated an intense anger and pain. The receptionist panicked. He swung the knife at the ghost. But the knife passed through her body as if through air. Eleanor's ghost glided past the blade and touched his face with her cold fingers. The receptionist screamed in pain. He stumbled backward, his face contorted with fear and agony. He tried to run, but Eleanor's ghost surrounded him. Sarah stood there, in the middle of the traffic, watching in horror as the confrontation between the ghost and the murderer unfolded. She knew she was witnessing a punishment from the other side. Eleanor's ghost continued to attack the receptionist. Her fury seemed boundless. She wrestled him to the ground, and groans and snarls echoed on the street. Passers-by stopped, looking at the strange scene unfolding. They saw the receptionist writhing on the ground as if being attacked by something invisible. They didn't see Eleanor's ghost. Sarah knew that only she could see her. She felt a strange connection with Eleanor's spirit. The fight happened very quickly. Finally, Eleanor's ghost overpowered the receptionist. A desperate scream echoed, and the receptionist lay motionless on the ground. Eleanor's ghost slowly turned to look at Sarah. Her face still held a trace of sadness, but her eyes were gentler. She nodded slightly at Sarah, a sad but grateful smile appearing on her lips. Then, Eleanor's ghost slowly vanished into the air, leaving Sarah alone in the middle of the street. Police and ambulance arrived at the scene. They found the receptionist dead, his face contorted with utter fear. The cause of death was unclear, but there were strange bruises on his neck. Sarah recounted the entire story to the police, about the suicide note and how Eleanor's ghost had appeared to take revenge. However, the police didn't believe her story. They thought she was in shock and hallucinating. Nevertheless, Eleanor's suicide note was found, and its contents were published. It revealed the secret behind Eleanor's death and exposed the true face of the receptionist. After the incident, Hotel Cecil became even more famous for its ghostly stories. In particular, room number 13 became a place many curious people sought out, wanting to experience supernatural phenomena. However, after the perpetrator was punished and the truth about Eleanor's death was revealed, the strange phenomena in room number 13 seemed to have significantly decreased. Some people still said they felt a strange presence there, but it was no longer as terrifying as before. Sarah believed that Eleanor's spirit had finally found peace after justice was served. She no longer had a reason to linger in this world. Sarah left Los Angeles after the conference. She never returned to Hotel Cecil. However, the story of Eleanor in room number 13 became a part of her life. Sarah knew that the spiritual world was real, and sometimes, unfortunate spirits needed our help to find peace. Eleanor's story is a reminder that the truth always finds a way to be revealed, no matter how well it is hidden. And sometimes, justice can come from the places we least expect. If you enjoyed these true horror stories, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the channel to follow our latest videos. We will bring you more terrifying and haunting stories. Thank you for listening.